The Setagaya family murder is one of the most disturbing crimes in modern history. Not just because of how brutal it was, but because of how careless the killer seemed to be. And how, despite that, he was never caught. This happened in Tokyo, one of the most surveilled and organized cities in the world. Yet more than 20 years later, the killer has completely vanished. Here's what happened. On the night of December 30th, 2000, the Miyazawa family was at home in their two-story house in Setagaya, a quiet residential neighborhood in Tokyo. The family consisted of 4 people: Mikio Miyazawa, 44 years old, a company employee; his wife Yasuko, 41, their daughter Nina, 8 years old, and their son Rei, just 6 years old. It was the last night before New Year's Eve, normally a peaceful time in Japan, when families stay home and prepare for celebrations. But sometime that night, a single intruder entered their home. What happened next would shock the entire country. Investigators believe the killer first confronted Mikio on the second floor. A struggle broke out. Mikio was stabbed multiple times and beaten. Evidence shows he fought back hard. This wasn't a quick or silent attack. After killing Mikio, the attacker went downstairs. Yasuko and Nina were attacked next. Both were stabbed to death. The violence was extreme and personal. Then the killer went back upstairs and murdered Rei while the child was sleeping. In total, the family was stabbed dozens of times. And then something happened that no one expected. The killer didn't run. Instead, he stayed inside the house for hours. This is what makes the Setagaya case so unsettling. After murdering an entire family, the attacker acted as if the house now belonged to him. He used the bathroom. He treated his own injuries. He ate food from the family's refrigerator. He sat down and rested. Police later found human feces left unflushed in the toilet. They found fingerprints everywhere, blood trails, clothing, a knife. The killer even left behind a sand-filled pouch that likely came from a skate park nearby. It was as if he had zero fear of being caught. Eventually, sometime before morning, the killer walked out the front door and disappeared into Tokyo. The crime wasn't discovered until the following morning. A relative tried to contact the family and got no response. When police entered the house, they immediately realized this was something unlike anything they had ever seen. Japan has extremely low homicide rates. Entire families being murdered is almost unheard of, and yet, despite the chaos left behind, there was no obvious motive. Nothing was stolen. Cash, credit cards, valuables, all untouched. This wasn't a robbery. So police began digging into the evidence, and the evidence in this case is overwhelming. The killer left behind over 10,000 pieces of physical evidence: DNA, fingerprints, footprints, blood, clothing fibers, the murder weapon. The DNA did not match anyone in Japan's criminal database, but forensic analysis revealed something shocking. The DNA suggested the killer was not fully Japanese. Markers indicated mixed ancestry, possibly East Asian and European. Further testing suggested the killer may have had Korean or Chinese ancestry on one side and possibly Southern European on the other. This alone made the case incredibly difficult. Japan's DNA databases at the time were extremely limited, especially for foreigners. Next, investigators analyzed the killer's clothing. The clothes left behind included a jacket, a scarf, gloves, and shoes. The jacket was traced to a brand sold primarily in South Korea. The shoes were a rare model sold in limited quantities. Most purchases traced to Kanagawa Prefecture, just south of Tokyo. The scarf appeared to be imported. Everything suggested the killer may not have been a long-term resident of Japan. Or he may have been someone who blended in, unnoticed. Then there's the weapon. The killer used 2 knives. One broke during the attack, the other was left behind. The knives were not Japanese brands, again pointing to the possibility of a foreign connection. And still, no match. Police interviewed over 15,000 people. They followed thousands of leads. They reconstructed the killer's movements minute by minute. They even analyzed the killer's bowel movement to determine his diet. Yet nothing led to an arrest. Over time, several theories emerged. One theory is that this was a random attack, a thrill killing. The killer may have entered the house simply because it was there. The Miyazawa home backed onto a park. Easy access. Poor visibility. A fence that could be climbed. Another theory is that Mikio was the target. Some believe Mikio may have had a dispute at work or encountered someone dangerous, but police found no evidence of threats, deaths, or enemies. A third theory is that the killer was a foreign transient, possibly a tourist, exchange student, or military connection, who left Japan shortly after the murders. If that's true, he may never have been entered into Japanese records again. What makes this case even more frustrating is that police believe the killer was young, possibly in his late teens or early 20s. He was reckless. He made mistakes. He left behind evidence everywhere. And yet, he vanished. The Setagaya case is sometimes called the case that should have been solved. In 2010, police reopened the investigation with modern forensic tools. They retested DNA. They released more information to the public. They even published the killer's clothing details, hoping someone would recognize them. Still, nothing. Every year on December 30th, Japanese police return to the house. They hold a small memorial. They keep the case active. The Miyazawa family has never been forgotten, but the killer has never been found. Some investigators believe the killer may be dead. Others believe he returned to his home country. Some believe he's still alive, living a normal life, knowing he committed one of the most horrifying crimes in Japanese history. What makes the Setagaya family murder so disturbing isn't just the violence. It's the calmness, the confidence, the fact that the killer stayed, ate, rested, and walked away. In a city of millions, with all that evidence, and never got caught. So the question remains, who was he? A foreign visitor? A local who slipped through the cracks? A serial killer who vanished after one night? If you had access to all that evidence, the DNA, the clothes, the knives, do you think this case should have been solved by now? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the world's most unsettling unsolved crimes, make sure to subscribe, because some mysteries refuse to stay buried.